Good morning, viewers, and welcome to Youth Wednesdays on Tobago Updates. Of course, we join you not from studio, but we have taken our studio to the picturesque Magdalena Resort. All right, so welcome one and all. This morning, I am joined with...
Good morning, Tobago. Good morning to our viewers. I am Renessa Ortiz. It's really good to be out of studio, Natalia. It's amazing that you get that new environment.
The ambience.
Exactly. So it's really good to be here this morning. And we're going to be discussing the budget review.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are very much excited to hear what exactly, well, the youth have to say. Because, of course, there was that youth discussion that happened after the budget where they discussed the youth involvement and how much or how little the youths were involved in such budgets. So we have a lot in store this morning for them this morning, right? So, I mean, Renessa, what are your thoughts on the budget?
My thoughts on the budget are mainly focused on the implementation of some of the things that we said, because it's very easy for something to be presented to the public, but now it's about the implementation and how it will actually benefit the citizens. And I think that's what's my main focus right now when it comes to the budget. You heard things like the fuel decrease. I am one of them who's very happy about that. Then there is the 10% wage negotiations with the public servants. And I know that has to be revised. So there are a lot of things that were said that sounded good, but then there are also the things on the back burner that you need to focus on as well, how it would positively or negatively impact the country going forward.
And I don't want to jump into our discussion too quickly. However, what you are saying is actually what the youth were saying. They're saying that, yes, these are good promises, but we need to make them more tangible. We always hear about how they want to include the youth in the development of Tobago, but we don't really see that as much sometimes. So we look forward to hearing what our discussion is about, of course, on Youth Wednesdays this morning and how that impacts the youths of Tobago and overall our country. So before we go to our lovely panel discussion this morning, we'll have our news in 90 seconds. Here is your news in 90 seconds for Wednesday. Here is your news in 90 seconds for Wednesday. Thank you. Your news in 90 seconds for Wednesday, 15th October 2025. Amid post-budget discussions, youth advocates are urging the government to make inclusion central to national development, warning that reliance on outdated economic models could alienate the next generation. At the youth budget talks yesterday, young leaders called for greater participation in economic planning and investment in sustainable industries like digitization and AI. With youth and unemployment at 11.06% in 2024, they urged structural reform, including a national youth council, and pressed the new administration to turn promises into tangible action for a more inclusive economic future. The annual World Food Day Grand Exhibition opens at the Shore Park Food Hub today. Under the theme, Hand in Hand for Better Food and a Better Future, the event highlights the island's growing focus on food security and agricultural innovation. The festival's expansion to include more stakeholders, community groups, and schools, featuring local produce, meats, and youth-oriented displays. The celebrations extend beyond the exhibition with the Horticultural Show, October 29th to 30th, and the Agri-Tech Innovation Summit, November 25th to 27th. Shifting focus in the Caribbean. Tensions flared in the Caribbean after U.S. President Donald Trump confirmed a military strike off the coast of Venezuela yesterday, killed 6 people. The operation, targeting a vessel allegedly linked to narco-terrorism, marked the 5th such strike in recent weeks, bringing total deaths to 27. Trump described the dead as narco-terrorists and reported no U.S. casualties. Venezuelan president attacks as attempts at regime change, vowing to defend national sovereignty through continued military operations, including the Independence 200 Defense Initiative. And that was your news in 90 seconds.
And now, Natalia, we're on to the best part of Youth Wednesday mornings. It's on to our birthdays. So first up, I want to say, I wouldn't say happy birthday. I'm going to say it in a different language this morning. Feliz cumpleaños to Miss Señorita Abini Taylor.
Oh, I saw why you did
yes.
that. Happy birthday to Abini. All right, and next up we have a happy birthday in English, Renessa. In English, happy birthday to Andre Edwards. God's richest blessings to you on this day.
Up next we have Odalie Thomas. I hope I pronounced that correctly. Odale Thomas, happy birthday to you. Up next we have
the one and only Kern Saint-Hilaire. A happy birthday to you, sir. And I hope that God blesses you richly. I just want to let you hear that enthusiasm in my voice. I really do hope that that follows you throughout the day. And I really do hope that you are looking on this morning to look at my face as I wink at you, so you know what to do throughout the day. So a happy birthday to you, Ken.
And last but certainly not least, we have Pastor Bevan Benjamin. Happy birthday to you. Wish you a spirit-filled day and that you'll have all your heart's desires on your special day.
Right. And to all our viewers who may not have made it onto our birthday segment this morning, a happy birthday to you. Birthdays are a special time for you especially, that God has granted you life and another year around the sun. So happy birthday to you. Right, so Renessa, we have a lot in store this morning. And of course, we did promise them that very, dynamic discussion on the budget this morning. And speaking to us on the budget, we will have no strangers to us here on Updates, Shanika Balgobin, economics teacher at the Bishop's High School, very, very inclined to what we have to speak about. We had a discussion with her the last time when we had the budget, and she had so much to share, so many insightful things that were broken down to the understanding of little folks like us.
And I think that's very important when you're speaking about the budget on a whole, because sometimes you hear all these big fancy words, but what do they mean?
Correct.
And being able to break it down for everyone in your country to be able to understand what is going on, I think it's something that's really crucial and we need to focus on a bit more sometimes.
Yes. And of course, joining Miss Balgobin as well, Ajay Allen. He's normally very much passionate about topics in politics, but not politics this morning, more so the budget this morning. He's a former youth parliamentarian. And of course, no stranger to us as well, Mr. Luke James Trim, CARICOM Youth Ambassador. And I love the fact that we have Luke involved. He's very passionate about the youth service, very vocal about it as well here in Tobago. And of course, on national budget that has come out, we would love to hear what these souls have to tell us this morning. But before we go, we just want to encourage them to share the live, share the live, share the live. We'll be right back.
The Tobago Blue Food Festival 2025 is on October 19th, 2025. Enjoy live entertainment, cultural performances, and the best local vibes with good people. Don't miss the festival where food meets culture. The Tobago Blue Food Festival 2025, Sunday, October 19th at Bloody Bay Recreational Grounds. Check out their website at www.tobagofestivalscommission.com or follow on social media at Tobago Festivals for more. Nothing sweeter than to be born young.
This is how it's gonna go. They better look is your show, and everybody's gonna know. Say it to them once again. They better look out below. This is your show, and everybody's gonna know. That's how it's gonna go. They better look out below, 'cause this is your show.
Welcome to Tobago Glass Supplies Limited, where innovation meets excellence and the service reigns supreme. Our commitment is simple: to provide high-quality, innovative aluminum, vinyl, and glass solutions for both commercial and residential spaces. At TGSL, we don't just meet needs, we exceed expectations. Our range includes the finest aluminum cladding options, setting new standards in durability and style. Driven by our passion to elevate, we aim to be the leading supplier in the Caribbean market while retaining our identity as a family-owned business. Because at Tobago Glass Supplies Limited, it's not just about products. It's about relationships, it's about you. Innovation, quality, service. That's Tobago Glass Supplies Limited.
So guys, there are some new developments in housing in Tobago. So it's goat racing time. This is 116, the show that keeps you in the know with all things Tobago House of Assembly. Each week, 116 delivers a fun and engaging overview of the latest developments, achievements, activities, and events of our dynamic assembly. So join me. Let's dive into the Tobago House of Assembly's Week in Review right here on 116.
Rise and shine, Tobago. The breakfast vibes you've been waiting for is here.
When you rum, tell you you's a big dancer.
It's time for Sun Up Tobago, the ultimate breakfast inclusive pool party that kicks off your carnival in style.
We come to take shots. She come to take shots.
Join us on Thursday, October 23rd from 6 a.m. to 12 noon at Scarborough House, 138 Milford Road. Music pumping, breakfast sizzling, coolers flowing, and vibes unmatched. This is where sun, sea, soca, and celebration collides. Get your early bird tickets now at Pablo Supermarket, Barcode, Lost Restaurant and Launch, Signature Cuts, IslandEtickets.com, and committee members. Don't miss the event where Tobago Carnival truly begins. Sun Up Tobago. Come for the breakfast, stay for the vibe.
Tobago, are you ready to light up the night? Join us for the Lambo Credit Union's Moonlight Miles for Diabetes Glow Walk 2025.
On Saturday, November 15th at Cano Bay Nature Resort, we'll walk, glow, and raise awareness for a healthier tomorrow.
From 5:30 to 9:30 p.m. Bring your family and friends for plenty glow energy.
Registration is just $180 per person, or grab your crew of 5 for only $150 each.
Sign up online or at Lambo Credit Union branches before October 31st.
For more registration and payment details, visit lambocreditunion.com and search Moonlight Miles today.
Want to get better? Where to start? What kind of exercise to do? What to eat? How to get restful sleep? Need a doctor to search for root cause? Look no further. Come to Majuba Hill Lifestyle Center Foundation at our Wellness Center in Goodwood, or Food Hub in Darrow Springs, Scarborough, or Doctor's Office in Goodwood and Darrow Springs. Contact 49 Swift 4979 438.
Put a smile on your face when you're moving from place to place. Good morning, good morning, morning, good morning, morning.
Good morning and welcome back to Tobago Updates. We're talking about the budget review this morning and we are here live at Magdalena Grand Beach Resort. I'm here with Natalia Nantes, my co-host.
Yes, Renessa Ortiz. Just reintroducing ourselves, we'll be your host for this morning to take you through the budget talks. We are awaiting our panelists this morning, but of course, Renessa had some views. I have some views on what the budget is looking like this year. Of course, we look at the biggest part of what we're talking about here in Tobago, and that is a larger allocation, or the largest allocation given to Tobago in 44 years. That is at 6.3%. Renessa has that lovely smile on her face, and I have that smile as well, I have to say, because, you know, we were hoping for that larger allocation, and indeed we did get it.
Yeah.
It was mentioned by our Finance Secretary, Ms. Petilan Roberts, that it was short just about 0.9, but we're still grateful for that increase because now we have a brighter future development-wise to look forward to. Tobago has a lot of ideas, and now we see the funds to actually bring those ideas to fruition, right? So you were speaking to me about that, the diversification of that economic revenue. So could you tell us a little bit about that, Vanessa, before we get into our main budget talk?
Now, I know part of the budget, when I was looking at the summary, they were talking about economic diversification, a new reality, agriculture, manufacturing, and tourism. Now, I zoned in specifically on agriculture because I think for too long, Tobago especially, we have a lot of landscape that we can utilize for the purpose of agriculture that is being underutilized. And I think that that stemmed from the fact that a lot of young people after the generation before us who were so much more involved in the rearing of animals, who were planting and harvesting and going to the market to sell, that reduced quite a bit. And I think it also had to do with the stigma attached to being a farmer. But now you're seeing that being revamped and that being reestablished in the Tobago space. You're seeing a lot of young farmers now. Everyone is realizing that in order for an economy to flourish and to be sustained, we need to be able to have food to feed our nation, and not only that, being able to export that as well to a wider market. And seeing this being a part of the budget presentation, it brings some hope, because I know they also had some programs in the past year that were catered to young people who wanted to go into agriculture, providing them with the tools and the necessary resources for them to be able to flourish in that scope. So that is something that I saw that really stood out to me.
I think I'm going to add on to what you were saying. Our Secretary for Agriculture, Ms. Natisha Charles-Panton, she also highlighted some of the ideas that she would love to bring to fruition. She had a list of them that would help to bolster our agricultural sector in Tobago. Because as you said, we have a lot of lands that need to be developed, but a lot of young people are saying they don't really have the access to these lands and they don't know how to go about doing so. So we're looking at the possibility of seeing that way forward for the fiscal year 2026. And I mean, a lot of ideas, I keep stressing on that. We have a lot of ideas. Tourism is our driving force here in Tobago.
But we need more.
Right? But now we see that allocation being increased. Hopefully there is an equal share between that the re-expenditure, I can't quite get that word right now, but what has to go back into expenditure that is owed, and of course going forward with Tobago's development in the expenditure that we can actually use, right? So a lot to look forward to, Renessa. I heard a discussion this morning on this said budget. Of course, that is the main talk right now. They're saying that one aspect of the budget is looking very pretty, but another aspect is looking very daunting, right? And I really want to pose that question to our panelists as they come in. You know, we'll see them very soon. But they were speaking about that increased allocation to Tobago. We have a decrease in the super gas. I think they mentioned produce like coconut water and salt being reduced on the markets. No, okay, all right. Yeah, but you know, we saw a lot of ups, if so to speak. But then we're looking at the fact that NIS has increased. We're looking at the fact that the pensioners' age has increased, as in, well, where their where retirement would actually start, and that is the age of 65. You know, so we're looking at one group benefiting. Well, they're saying that you're looking at one group benefiting and another group possibly having to pay that price for the other group to benefit. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think with a budget, most times that is what usually happens.
Yeah.
One side always feels like they're on the up and up, and then the other side doesn't feel the same way. And I think it's important that when you're focusing on the budget and the way that things are done, there are always going to be a certain category of people or a certain sector that may benefit much less than another one, depending on the goals of the government in terms of diversifying and ensuring that the economy stabilizes, or for their goal of stabilizing the economy. So I think that's something that you can't necessarily get away from, but it's how it's managed is what is most important.
And I think one point, before we do take that break, one point that, has to be mentioned, it has been mentioned several times that there is an economic strain for the country, right? So you're looking at a fact like that. You're looking at the fact that our budget is not really one that everybody will particularly benefit from. But you're looking at the fact that they had to move around,
scale.
correct, move around the numbers so that what we have going on right now, what we could fix right now is really the focus. So, I mean, a lot to talk about, as I keep saying continuously. I'm seeing our panelists walking in. So, of course, we take a short break and come back with more. But before we do so, Renessa, we need to remind them to share the live, share the live, share the live.
The Tobago Blue Food Festival 2025 is on October 19th, 2025. Enjoy live entertainment, cultural performances, and the best local vibes with good people. Don't miss the festival where food meets culture. The Tobago Blue Food Festival 2025, Sunday, October 19th at Bloody Bay Recreational Grounds. Check out their website at www.tobagofestivalscommission.com or follow on social media at Tobago Festivals for more.
The road is calling. Tobago Carnival. Neon is coming. Presenting the Mashup King himself, DJ Kai, alongside the voice of the people, Boy Boy. The dynamic duo bringing pure fire to the road, CSI Khaled and Selecta Stefan. And Tobago's own, the people's champion, DJ Big Youth. This is Neon Night Mass. One road, one rhythm, one experience. Tobago Carnival 2025. We outside.
place, place. Good morning, good morning, morning, good morning, morning. Put a smile on your face when you're moving from place to place, place. Good morning, good morning, morning, good morning, morning.
Welcome back to Tobago Updates. Youth Wednesdays here this morning on our morning show. We continue our budget talks this morning with our panelist that is present this morning. That is Mr. Ajay Allen. Good morning to you, Mr. Allen.
Hi, good morning.
You know, Ajay is always raring to go and always has, you know, those inputs that we really need to hear on the budget and, of course, anything relating to our government. All right, so we do welcome Ajay here this morning. All right, so Ajay, what are your general thoughts on the budget?
Okay, so interestingly for me, my first thought of it was fear was reasonable. I mean, those are initial thoughts, as I would say. Because when you begin to go through the speeches and the presentations, the devil usually is in the details in some of these things. And following that initial response, there were a few areas I began to question a little bit. In terms of, well, from being at Tobago, first and foremost, I was happy to see the increase. But sometimes it's not just the increase, but how we manage the increase and how we could generate more income off of that larger amount that was allocated.
All right. So you mentioned he jumps right into that that part of the budget that everybody's really focusing on, and that is the greater Tobago allocation that was offered. Yeah. So what do you think, or where do you think that allocation should really target the most?
You see, the Secretary of Finance has an extremely difficult task, as I would always say, because to manage finances where we always run a deficit is a challenge. And I know we have outstanding overheads existing. So in my perspective, I think we would see a lot of the business community rushing to get payments that would have not been made over the years. But we now have to balance it among divisions. We now have to balance the expenditure as well as paying off the debts, paying off the overdrafts as well in some cases. So we don't incur additional debt. But I really would love to see more money go into exportation. I know the Secretary had also mentioned prior to the actual presentation that they no longer are interested in heavily funding startups, but they want to provide more technical support because a number of these businesses that would have access the grants and so on through the BDU, some are non-existent and some are experiencing serious difficulties. So I think more funding should go into providing technical support, into pushing exportation. I mean, I want to see Cove utilized. So the new road that they built for me connecting that Torbay local road, it's like the rivulet to the Point Lisas industrial estate. So I want to see goods flowing straight from Cove, straight onto the airport, straight out for exportation.
Okay. Now, I'm happy that you mentioned the fact that BDU and these enterprises providing funding for businesses, and then when you look at it, sometimes the businesses aren't thriving and they're focusing mainly on the technical support. I think that's something that's also crucial as well, because if it is you're giving someone who is now starting a business for the first time, I know usually BDU provides training. So there's training that you have to go to when they are providing you with this funding. Now, as it relates to business and the budget and stuff like that, how do you see the technical training that they would be providing helping in as compared to the finances that they would just give to the businesses rather than just giving them?
I would have observed a pattern looking around, seeing a number of the younger businesses, and sometimes it would feel like if persons were accessing the funding to start up to say I have a business or to register a business. And a number of these individuals are teacher employees. So I believe if we focus on providing that technical training, they would see where I can earn more than a teacher salary, quote unquote, and my business has the ability to take me international, take me global. So when you look at programs like this group, the Joe Fields Enterprises, so you would see where that level of expansion is coming. They're getting the ability to travel, to tap into new markets, to even earn foreign exchange, which is a serious challenge globally and in our Trinidad and Tobago space. So I think that focus on business expansion, and I think as Tobagonians, I would always say we need to get out of this small-minded mindset. We need to remove this term small and medium businesses because I think it traps the mindset of a lot of us, and we always think small business. I could deliver, I could provide small products, and we don't think expansion. I always believe that we need to eliminate the small business or the medium business mindset and just think business. I think that would help Tobagoans and the whole sea. Yes, our population might be small. Yes, our economy may look small, but we have a whole world to tap into.
Because we're also seeing where the THA is the primary employer of a lot of the people on Tobago. So when we say we focus on investing in our businesses and not just from the government point of view, but also from the citizens' point of view, the persons who want to go into business, when we start coming out of that box and looking at business as something that is wide and far-reaching, that you could go to New York, you could go to Europe, you could go to Asia and export your products in that way. That is also a way of adding back to the economy here in Trinidad and Tobago, and not just Tobago.
Not necessarily that alone. You know. I remember having a conversation with the chief early into his term, and I was explaining to him that I believe we need to change some of the rules that govern the way the BDU operates. So if I give you a BDU grant, one of the things that I think should have been essential is employment. So over the next year or 2 years, you must employ somebody from the community. In order for you to employ someone and pay your bills, you must have a high quality product. If the employee is not giving you work of high quality or a top standard, you're going to fire them. So it will drive that level of independence. It will drive that level of, I don't want to say pride, but pride. Because I have a colleague of mine who recently went to Barbados. And he was saying, from the time you walk, it's service. So you might be late or 30 minutes late for a taxi, and the taxi driver face is not screwed up. He's like, bro, we understand this Caribbean time, you could get blind. And because of that culture, you find it feel easier to tip. You feel more compelled to spend more freely because you're getting service for it. And I think we as Tobagoans also, we need to find ways to win off of the teacher and win off of the national government. Because far too often you always say, central government didn't give you this, or we ain't get that. I think Tobagoans as a whole, we need to, 1, support local, 2, think macro, and 3, realize that if we always dependent on the teacher would always be dependent on the central government, and we're not creating any change in our system.
Okay, so we know that the super went down. Renessa said that she's really happy about the super, but you're saying that if that is the case in terms of, we get something good, it has to be a balancing act. So what do you think is on the other side of that scale?
No, but I think, you see, we have some clever ministers and so on governing, Because when you really look at the budget, you have to give and you have to take from somewhere. And I got the impression that it was taking from the rich and giving to the poor.
Okay.
But the problem in doing that is the rich usually don't absorb some of these costs. I know some of the governing bodies are beginning to say we will absorb some of the costs. I heard the Petroleum Dealers Association. I'm not too sure if the Tobago gas stations are part of it, but they are saying they will absorb that particular cost. But how would that affect us, the regular traveler? How would that affect persons like myself who probably doesn't have a vehicle as yet and are traveling? Does it mean that we're going to see a drop in maxi taxi fares? Is it that it's going to cost $8 from Crown Point to Scarborough instead of $9? So these are some of the conversations we have to have. Also, we see it coming in the NIS area. The issue of the rental is something that I think needs to be explained a lot more as young professionals.
Yes.
Because we need to know how that's going to affect the students. How is that going to affect myself, who probably might be looking for a wife soon and looking forward to get our own apartment and start a family? How is this rental fee going to be applied? Is it just going to be for the massive enterprises? Is it just going to be that the THA would have to pay more in rent? Because we know they are one of the largest commercial renters on the island. So we really have to begin to, as I said, the devil in the details, and I look forward to Standing Finance Committee.
Now, one of my main things about all of the budget presentation was the implementation. And I know they spoke about the land for the landless and more affordable loans and lower interest rates for young people who want to have a family. What are your thoughts and your views on that, and how do you think is the best way for them to implement something
so
like
you
this?
spoke to implementation, but it's critical because a lot of these things sound nice on paper, they looks good. But when it comes to actually implementing these programs is where we have to ask, how long would these loans be? Because we have a lot of young persons buying vehicles now. 10 years loan, you pay a small amount of money. By the time a lot of us working in the teaching, for example, so our salaries is usually $5,000-6,000. The rent is an average of $4,000 TT on average. We don't know what additional cost might come to that. The rental apartments that you are finding on the lower end, so the $2,500, the $1,500 rent, are places where you wonder if fire service would approve some of those buildings. The buildings are heated, the buildings are hot. You have no proper exit. So it's, how do we really figure it out? I mean, we have to ask, as I said, the devil would be in the details, and we really need to pay keen attention to how they intend to implement these programs. I mean, I love when I heard the cost of construction material went down because I mean, I have building under construction.
Right.
But then you also need to look at it on the next end. Is it that the shipment in between Trinidad and Tobago, these guys will now say, oh, we could make a profit. So the prices don't change. Is that we're going to see a drop in the cost of cement? So, I mean, this is a real technical document. I must say the minister did a master class in presenting. It almost felt like I'm looking at a spoken word presentation. I mean, it was one of the more entertaining budgets to listen to. But we really need to pay attention to some of these key indicators, and as Tobagonians as well, we need to ask, how is this going to directly affect us? Is it that we're going to see a drop in inter-island transportation prices? Even the custom duties as well was very interesting because that mixed with alcohol. And I had a friend of mine who used to work at the Ministry of Finance. He went on to work for the IMF. He recently came back from the Netherlands. And some of the things I saw in this budget is things he told me 8 years ago. Raising the cost of importing external alcohol when he would push the local alcohol business or the winemaking industry to skyrocket. There's a new business opportunity. But also it would help to offset some of the impacts that alcohol has. Because we usually spend a lot of money in CDAP, a lot of money in our healthcare, treating with lung disease, with different types of cancers caused by these same tobacco products as well as alcohol. So how do we really balance? So that increase could help. It also would help in the social support programs. So we'd find a way, guys, I'm not bashing you, I'm a big men advocate. However, when we don't take home the money to our wives to say about our children and we spend it at the bars, our same wives would go back to the Tobago House of Assembly or to the state for social support. It's a kind of attempt to balance off.
Right. One of the things that we saw, or people are looking forward to, is the opening of the airport. Ajay? Breathe. Right. The opening of the airport. Right. I just had a question come in. After such a long time of not having direct flights from the US to Tobago, how do you see this impact in a negative or positive light?
Okay, so you just played a ball right into my garden. You bowled me a Yorker, and unfortunately I may have to hit you out of the park because my course of study is aviation, so I have a certificate in aviation tech. And when this whole airport scenario happened, I was actually studying at the time. So one of the former directors of civil aviation, who was one of my lecturers, we literally went through how this would work and how it would have affected us, as well as my property was at the middle of this whole airport fiasco. So I was relocated due to that process. So I understand the impact a new airport would have. The problem would now be sustainability. The problem would be approvals. Because from my little bit of knowledge, you cannot have a jetway, a clear jetway, within a distance where I can pelt a stone and break a glass window on it. How am I to get FAA approval? How am I to get IQ approvals? Which means I will have to do more relocation, which means we put more strain on the THA. But I understand the impact of it. How could you advertise for me, or you have in your ads an airport that carries at least 5 or 6 jetways and I'm only seeing 2 installed? So these are some of the technicalities that we need to look into. I have a colleague of mine who I just met yesterday. He's based in New York, studying aviation as well. And when he looked at it, he said, but when the FAA comes to Tobago, what are they going to say concerning the safety requirements of that airport? And I worked at the airport for a period of times. I would not share some of the obvious safety risk. But I think we need to understand it's good, but we as the citizens need to enjoy it. We have heard questions concerning the concessionaires at the airport. We haven't heard word on it yet. We haven't heard the business chamber in Tobago say, well, guys, we are happy to announce that we have secured 5 booths at the airport for local products. Or we're going to have the restaurant that is going to be owned by a Tobagonian, or 5 of us have come together. And we're going to see Chef Arthur Patrick, for example, running the airport. You see, an airport is a mall with the accommodations for the taking off and landing of an aircraft. Are we going to treat this airport like that? Or is it going to be the typical glass building? We're going to have all the conglomerates coming in and taking all of the money and go back out? Is that we're going to have Starbucks eating all of our foreign exchange and I can't get like a 500 to go Barbados? So we really need to break it down on the micro level.
Now you spoke about the airport being a mall, and I know a part of the budget they were speaking about the tourism aspect. Now it's one of my personal views or things that I've observed is that whenever someone steps onto the airport in your country, there should be some way or form of them wanting to come back, even if they're just passing through. And I've always said, why is it that the booths within our airports, or when tourists come, why is it that they're not stopping to say, okay, let me pre-book a a vacation for maybe Carnival coming or Easter coming. And I'm really, really pleased that you just mentioned the fact that our airport should be like a mall for people when they come here. So we need to really work on the infrastructure and the way that we are doing things. We need to not just look at things and the surface. We need to go deeper. We need to look at all the ramifications and everything that follow coming out of that.
Right. What I focused on, you know, I'm a foodie. Okay. I'm a foodie, right? So you mentioned that Starbucks, we have Starbucks and all these foreign people coming to occupy our stores in the mall or mall for taking off and landing, right? What are your thoughts on having the locals? Because I hardly see, I don't know if any of you all have seen, you all can correct me, a tourist landing and being able to eat a bacon saltfish or something of the local cuisine nature. Let me put it like that.
No. You see, it all comes back to what we want and what we ask for as a people and how we provide service. Because if you are coming through, for example, the new terminal, and you smell local coffee, chances are you're going to want to try it because it's already in the aroma. So when you look at aviation, there are some technical things that they would do. So you would realize where there's certain aspects of the airport where you would find tile and you'll find carpet. As simple as it might seem, it plays on your psychology. When you go to a casino, you realize very where you would find tiles in a casino, you'd always see carpeted floors. So some of these small elements would play into how we design an airport. So usually after you clear security, you will meet carpet, it feels a lot more calm, you don't feel the line up because of the psychology that goes into it. So I think that's one of the things we need to play on as well. I think we're focusing a little too much on air transportation. I spoke to a yacht that was moored in Pigeon Point recently, and she was saying we have some of the lowest fees for clearances. And she was saying that's a whole industry we can tap into. Usually our fees are less than Barbados and some of the other islands. That's why she enjoyed the Caribbean region. It's feasible, and then we have one of the best maritime repair areas in Chagaramas. You know, UTT is doing an excellent work down there, and a number of Tobagonians are doing excellent in the maritime industry. I could also tell you, I have seen a plan or a draft for a marina in Plymouth, drawn by a Tobagonian. The proposal was offered to a Tobagonian chief secretary, and I wouldn't go further to say where it went or what happened.
Okay. What are your thoughts on the airport being opened next year? Now, I know it's a distance between the ribbon cutting ceremony and we're looking at 2026 being the actual opening. And
also, are we speaking about the practical opening? Let's be specific.
The operation of the airports. Flights coming in and out as well as people.
You see, it comes back again to some technical conversations because we can have an airport open. We only make money simply because it's new. But I mean, when you look at aviation bloggers like Sam Chewy and some of these types of persons who's heavily into that, mentor aviation, is it that we have engaged these guys to come and tour the airport to trigger that? Are we having conversations with Emirates, with Etihad? Are we looking for these types of international partnerships in the industry? Or are we now going to say, what are we going to do with the old terminal? Do you know that at Piarco there's a limit that you allow student pilots to fly into? And there's a number of aviation schools based in Trinidad. Why can't we not have a partnership? Use the old terminal as an FBO. You create that level of commerce. Persons who study aviation are big money spenders. It's not the industry for quote unquote the small man because of the amount of money involved. So why can't we have students coming and study aviation in Tobago? You could fly around the island, we could do tours, you could fly to Grenada, St. Vincent, out of Tobago because we don't have that level of traffic. And it's not just tourists coming and booking a full trip. They live on the island of Tobago. And that's why we need to create. The parents would come and spend time here. They would go to the rainforest. So we need to look for not just flying and out tourists, but a long-term system. We could probably partner with Embry-Riddle. And I mean, I just think we're big. Probably I'm living on a small island and my mind is just too big for the island. But we need to think global.
Now, I know initially you mentioned the way how the airport is currently situated. It shouldn't be a situation where it's a stone throw away. If someone pelts a bottle or a stone, it hits something and causes something to the effect of safety issues. Now, how do you think that the government should go about dealing with this situation in the event that, as you said, if FAA is supposed to come and give the approvals or such? How do you think they should work around this or start being proactive to ensure that some of these things are mitigated before that?
Okay, so first, if you look at how the scenario treated with Piakwan or Open Gardens, I think that's one of the better examples. Probably fortunately for those residents and not us who went through the previous ordeal, we have a new administration, so they will probably be a little more lenient towards it. But I want to see the developments that were planned for the affected residents completed finally properly. So at least they could move from 1 billion into the next. I think that would help. And we also need to prepare Tobagonians for what is to come. So I don't want to have a situation where we have a new airport opening and we are bringing up technicians from Trinidad to treat with a jetway or to fix with it. Or we have the most of the senior staff coming from Trinidad. As Tobagonians, when we have a different feel, we have a different touch to Trinidadians. We are a little more calm, a little more loving, we are a little more playful, we are a little more slow in some areas, which is good and which is what they like. So I think we need to begin to prepare Tobagonians for what is to come. I think we need to even employ persons in the area as well, so they would understand the importance of it. And they would also be able, even if they see things that may look suspicious, feel comfortable enough to report it, to say, okay, this individual looks suspicious, or this package looks suspicious. And they would understand the risk that goes with being in the aviation industry.
Right. So we have been talking a lot about, that one aspect, the airport. We also touched on, the positives that we would see coming out of the budget, as per a lot of people in Tobago's opinion, right? Our 60 crabs in the barrel are happy for what? More food. Yeah? But what about the negatives, or what people would term negative from the budget? That is the NIS increase, or we're looking as well as I don't know how, well, a lot of working people may say that it is a negative. That is the raising of the age from 60 to 65 in terms of working. What do you think about that? What are your thoughts on those?
You see, in basic economics, they will tell you about opportunity costs. So in order to gain something, you have to lose something. Okay. And I am also of the view, those persons who are nearing current retirement is over a time period. As we say again, the devil is in the details. So it's over a time period. So persons in our generation who would have to treat with that, we now would have to know how to think into it. We now would have to be able to take out our pension plans a little bit earlier and kind of think forward. But sometimes to keep things going, you have to sacrifice. I think it's a reasonable sacrifice, is a reasonable implementation. Instead of having the NIB crash completely, or instead of us going bankrupt. Because what you find happening now is the NIB is paying out more than they are actually receiving. Yeah. And I think even tax collection is something we need to be a little more prudent on and enforcing it as well. So it's not just creating employment, but we also have to eliminate corruption in the system. I mean, I don't know how we would be doing that by having stricter enforcement officers. And we had to pay tax, that's the reality. Two, I think we need to implement the rental board as well to help monitor how rent's going. So they would begin to realize that there are properties of a particular standard, and it would help as well. But I think sometimes as the younger generation, we have to bite the bullet going forward. Because we can't just think about ourselves, but probably for our children and for the future of Trinidad and Tobago. If we are really patriotic, we wouldn't just put on the t-shirt and wait for football, but we will say, you know what, we're going to bite a little bit of the bullet now and save it for the future.
Now, I heard your, I know Vanessa is coming with a hot question. I have a feeling I know where that question is going. But you mentioned how we need to pull a little tighter rein on the taxes that we need to pay. Now, do you think it's a fair trade-off, or should I say enough padding? Because remember, this government said that property tax may or may not be a thing, right? So if it is that it is not a thing, do you think it's enough padding in terms of taxes or the revenue coming in to be enough for the country to move forward?
You see, I don't think it's a matter of enough, it would be a matter of enforcement.
Okay.
Because there are a number, and we have seen, tax levies, we have seen a number of moratoriums, and so we always have been very compliant. I think we need to go beyond the compliance stage and begin to push enforcement. I think that would also help going forward. But generally, as a people, we have to sacrifice. I mean, it's not nice, it's not pleasant as a young professional, but we really have to see. And if you see things going wrong, even as public servant or as members, we need to also give service that's worth it, make sure people feel comfortable. And if we see things or infringements, we need to find ways to report it, even if it means using like the Freedom of the Information Act, where you can anonymously ask some of these things. We need to find ways. So if you see something that's wrong, say something, even in these fields and in these areas.
No, you said I had a very packed question, but you basically asked it in terms of the taxes and stuff, and you gave the answer. Because it's always a matter of enforcing, because we have the policies, we have the things in place, but why is it such an issue for us to enforce and ensure that the people who are actually supposed to be paying these taxes are doing what they're supposed to do?
Yes, I think it comes back to a matter of culture, because generally we have had a couple administrations over the years that have been very lenient, very friendly, and particularly in the Tobago case, we have a gimme type of culture. We have a I don't care what happened, just pay me. And a lot of the times that is what creates the problem, because we don't understand that there are implications to it happening. And I think that is where we need to begin to create that shift. I think, to be honest with you, we need to start with budget in school. Because even as we are discussing the budget, it is an estimate. And then we also have to wait for a reprioritization. So we also have to hear now what we're going to miss, because we are short of what, 9%. So we now need to know, okay, what are we going to lose based on that? And then we also need to sit down and go back to having family discussions in terms of budgeting. So our young children need to understand this would mean you're not going to have your $5 for snack anymore. Or it's going to mean when I give you the $20 to go to school and I ask you how you spend the $20. If you can't give me an account for that 20, you're going to get 5. So we need to start to teach these principles from a lot younger.
And it's interesting that you mentioned that, because I always say to myself, when we look at some of the things that are taken away or removed from the budget, or we have to cut back on, usually hear public outcry. And while people are justified in how they feel, when you look at your own personal expenditure and things you have to do on a day-to-day basis, on a monthly basis, there are things you usually have to cut back on. And I think we focus on the budget from personal views and what you want to gain as a person, rather than looking at it from a national perspective. And you mentioned earlier the whole concept of patriotism. Are we really being patriotic when it comes to looking at how the budget unfolds? Sometimes are we really thinking about everyone, or are we just thinking about ourselves?
Correct. You have a very, very valid contribution. But I would also want to commend the Minister for dealing with the issue of period poverty as well. Because I've heard a number of conversations concerning it. And I think it's a very good move as well. And I want to see corporate Trinidad and Tobago support him as well in that matter and help in that regard as well, in terms of that period poverty scenario. I mean, this is an opportunity for us to show how much we love Trinidad and Tobago. So this is not just celebrating a TKR win, but this is us being able to say, you know what, I'm going to travel with the bus instead of catch a car, simply to allow a child to go to school. So some of these small things is the areas that we need to cut back. Because one wonderful basket, if we could celebrate $1 reducing gas, we could simply cut back $1 in other areas as well to manage our finances.
Earlier I was talking about agriculture, and I speak a lot with the older generation. There was one person in particular that spoke about Tobago feeding both Trinidad and Tobago at one point. And I know they included in the budget, they were talking about agriculture and bringing it back to the forefront. Give us some of your views on that.
You see, agriculture is an area that we haven't tapped into properly, because we haven't had the ability for exportation as well. Because I've always advocated for having a Kariri or a FDA approved lab on the island of Tobago. Because when we send products to Trinidad to test, we have a long delay. We have products in Tobago being produced by Tatco, the waffles, the flour from breadfruit, and these types of products. The number one kickback for us in Tobago is the ability to export. I mean, I would like to see where we have a massive plant in Cove and breadfruit not wasting on Tobago. Or when persons come out, we see on the menus are breadfruit waffles from Tobago. Even on the airlines and stuff, I want to see local wines being served in first class when you're coming to Tobago. I want to see heritage productions as in-flight entertainment. I mean, we really need to think some of these small things would help. But agriculture, we have a lot of potential, but exportation has been our number one challenge. And I realized that my favorite secretary has a very good relationship with the Minister of Agriculture. So I'm really expecting to see a lot coming forward in that direction. And I think once we have that ability to package and put the product, Tobago is a brand. If somebody in Cuba could tell me they're selling fish from Tobago, when I ask where, they could tell me the fish is in Mason Hall. It shows you that brand Tobago itself carries value. So we just need to find avenues and ways to tap into that market and to tell the world we open for business. If we can come to you, you can come to get it, we could send it to you. Use Amazon, use these types of means where we could get the products there. I want to see about products in Walgreens, in Walmart, in Costco going forward.
You spoke about Kariri. Just a second. You spoke about Kariri and Kariri being able to set up within Tobago. Now, I've been to a Kariri workshop before. And I want to ask you the question, do you think the reason why we don't have a Kariri facility here is because we don't have a lot of people interested in investing or being a part of that?
I would make that statement. Sorry. But in the interest of time, I was going to look for the THA Act. Carry is one of the services that is supposed to be provided in Tobago. It is a 7th schedule matter, if I remember correctly. Over the years, why have we not seen that presence of Carry here if the law provides for it? I am not implying that anybody is breaking the law, but if Tobagonians take time and you read the 5th, 6th, and 7th schedule of that THA Act, you will see where a number of these services are supposed to be provided here. We don't know why they haven't been. So it's not a matter of Tobagonians wanting to be involved or not being open. If the opportunity is made available, we have the products here, we have the professionals, we just need to show them where the money is, and they will go behind the money.
All right. Ajay, we want to thank you so much for joining us here on the Youth Wednesdays on Tobago Updates, our faithful panelists, for being with us here this morning. You have a lot of views, and I know you will be willing to come back again. So viewers, we promise you a continuation of this show next week. Of course, you can tune in at the hour of 7 o'clock sharp. It is now 8:03, and unfortunately, we have to bring Ajay down to an end. All right? But thank you so much for being with us. Thank you so much for joining us on the Youth Wednesdays on Tobago Updates. Renessa, I know that you have a lot of burning questions still. Ajay, I know you have a lot of burning answers to give to the audience. But however, we have to bring it to an end. Viewers, we ask you to continue to be with us as we go into our Good Morning Tobago show. We have our favorite, or Ajay's favorite secretary here this morning to speak to us on those budget talks. All right, so before we go on to GMT, we just want to encourage you all to share the live, share the live, share the live.
Tobago Integrated Livestock Association, they were now forming, and they understood that the small ruminant industry needed to be developed on the island, and I gave them that responsibility of assisting us at the division to develop the small ruminant industry, because it was non-existent. We hardly had any stock on the farms. And 3 years later, we're now having 3 lamb fests in Tobago.
This is the first lamb fest where all the meats have been sold out, have been purchased by the caterers. We have 18 caterers on site, and every bit of the meat will purchase. We have no fresh meat. This is the first year, no fresh meat on sale for patrons. So I would say that everything is working in accordance and the market is really developing. I see the Lamb Fest being franchised and possibly being spread out throughout the Caribbean. Who knows, probably international as well.
My name is Gillian. I'm from the UK and I'm staying here for a little while. I was told by my friend that about this Lamb Fest, and it's fantastic. My first bite, one of many. It's absolutely so delicious.
I think it's a great initiative because it's a interesting spin on approach to food security in a way that I think Tobagonians could relate to. It's a food festival, so everybody comes, with a belly in their hand and a fair amount of curiosity as to what the caterers will present this year. And so far, I'm not disappointed. This is my family.
Well, my experience has been good. The food is excellent. And I suppose when you come here, you will get lamb in different styles that you don't normally do at home. So that's why I come.
That was a production of the Department of Information, Office of the Chief Secretary, Tobago House of Assembly.
You're viewing Tobago Updates Television, your exclusive gateway to Tobago, broadcasting the beauty of this island paradise to the world.
and hear me neighbor. 60,000 people strong, and the vibes is never wrong. Beauty, we are power. We are people in the sun. We are beaches, we are rivers. We are melanated ones. We special and there is no denying. Tobago is number one. I am you and you are me. Together we stronger. Good morning, Tobago. Good morning, Tobago. Good morning, Tobago.
Good morning, and welcome back to Good Morning Tobago right here on Tobago Updates. I am your host, Chanel Felix. Guys, and you know, whenever you see me here, it's because we're about to have those conversations that you want to have while I ask those questions that you want asked. This morning, we jumped full speed ahead and we're still talking about the budget presentation that was made on Monday by the Minister of Finance. This morning, to have that conversation with me, I'm privileged to be sitting here live at the Magdalena Grand Beach Resort. This morning, I'm chatting with Councillor Petal and Roberts, who is also the Secretary in the Division of Finance, Trade and the Economy. But before we jump straight ahead into this morning's discussion, I want to remind you that today is Baby Loss Awareness Day. And if you see this nice little pink and blue pin that I have on my clothes, it's just about raising awareness for women who have lost pregnancies, or having lost a child at the very early stages, usually from birth to the first year. But they still they still recognize women who lose toddlers as well. So if you have experienced any type of baby loss, the Zafiri Foundation is available here in Tobago to help to support you. And you can reach out to them on Facebook and be a part of their support group. So this morning we jump straight ahead into all that's happening here in Tobago. And we heard on Monday night, exciting times ahead for Tobago as it pertains to development from the Finance Secretary. Good morning, Secretary Roberts, and welcome again to Tobago Updates.
Good morning, Chanel. Good morning to the online viewers. Good morning, especially to Tobago.
Now, you said exciting times ahead for Tobago, after you made that budget presentation. Just give us a little insight, because we were viewing from home. We were looking at the budget from TV. And for me, on my end, there was excitement. There was uproar when the announcement was made for Tobago's allocation. Because when the minister, he began to say, he began speaking about the lower end of the DRC recommendation, and then he said, in his recognition, this is insufficient for Tobago to be able to fulfill its development agenda.
Yes.
And we were there and we were waiting to hear, and our pause was raising, and then we heard what the allocation would be for Tobago above what we have had ever been given before from the central government in the entire history of the Tobago House of Assembly. What was the energy like in the Parliament when the announcement for Tobago's allocation was made?
Exciting to the point where persons in the public gallery got thrown out. So we actually had to compose ourselves and not have an exciting reaction in case we get thrown out of the Parliament. But, I did not have even an inclination. I didn't know what he would come with. I know what I asked for, what we requested. We had our conversation. He did indicate the difficulties with my ask, but he did indicate we will endeavor to give you what you need as a starting point to develop Tobago. He did ask me what was the lowest we are willing to accept. And the lowest I was willing to accept was 5%. 5.1 is really the representation of Tobago's population as a percentage of the national population. But that was what I asked, and he said promises made, promises kept. And I did see a lot of promises being kept in terms of our discussions. One of the major things is that over the years, we do not usually get all of our allocation because of the offsetting arrangement. We collect the revenues here in Tobago, which is offset against the parliamentary appropriation for the Tobago House of Assembly. And in years gone by, when we tell the ministry or the minister, because we have every single year before the budget is read and we close the financial year, we have these meetings with the minister one-on-one. And my top of the agenda item is how much is required to close the fiscal year that we are the fiscal year that we are ending, which was the last one was September 2025. I did it with Minister Imbert for September 2024. So when at those meetings we'll discuss what is the balance owing to the THA based on the projected revenues, how much they actually collected, how much the government has given us already in releases, and the balance. Usually we do not collect all. There's always a shortfall. As a matter of fact, when this administration came into office, I was chief management accountant at the time, and I was asked to get those figures so that we can write the minister indicating this is the shortfall. The shortfall cumulatively, I didn't go right back to more than 10 years. We did 7 years from when this administration came into office. And the shortfall cumulatively was $166 million owed to the THA. Owed means the Appropriation Act says, the Parliamentary Appropriation Act says Tobago is to receive $100, and we have not received 100. In 1 year we received 80, in another year we received 60, in another year we received 75. So cumulatively, I calculated the shortfall and it came up to $166 million. This financial year that just ended there, we collected every single cent. And, and that is why I want to tell the public that the relationship between the Tobago House of Assembly and the central government has improved. We are seeing progress to Tobago. We are seeing the respect. We are seeing the regard. We are seeing the compassion. We are seeing Tobago's needs being met, and not only needs, but this is the law. The law states that this is what Tobago should receive. After the appropriation bill is passed, it becomes an act of parliament, and therefore the government is required to give all the releases to the Tobago House of Assembly as stated in the...
The question has arisen, now that there is a better relationship between the central government and the THA, now that Tobago has gotten to the closest point of what it has asked for, does this mean that we no longer have the issue of owing contractors and service providers for a prolonged period, or is that a structural issue within the divisions and the accounting departments that need to be fixed and altered? Because the conversation is going on Facebook.
Yeah, that's an excellent question. And I wish that I had the solution at hand. But the solution is twofold. One, we do not receive our allocations in advance, quarterly or block in advance. So, for instance, I just received the paper release from the Ministry of Finance for these 2 months, October and November. So I'm going to receive October and November's releases. If I was in Trinidad, so I'm not sure if we received it just yet. So the checks would come to the THA in the beginning of the quarter for 2 months. And then the final month, it will come in the third month of the quarter. That is an issue for us, because how we receive money is how we can pay. So that in itself affects how we pay contractors. And secondly, we have a manual system, Chanel. The THA is purely manual. There is a project actually called IFMIS, it's the Integrated Financial Management Information System, where they want to modernize and digitize the entire budgeting and accounting platform of the THA. And I've been saying this for a very long time, but really and truly, if I had the power to do this thing on my own, I'll run with it. I did ask the minister if I can lead that project for myself in Tobago. Just give us the resources and let us implement. We are still having the conversations because of how the contract was so structured with the service provider who is doing the actual IFMIS. So there have been a contractual arrangement with a service provider, an international company, to do the digitization of the accounting and budgeting platform. However, because of how the contract is with the government in Trinidad, not Tobago. So anything I have, it has to come out of Port of Spain. I did meet with the company as well to see how I can customize the software to Tobago's needs, because that's what was one of the problems that we've had. When the IFMIS project started, they came to Tobago and they came to a stand, they came to a halt, because they didn't even know, nobody did the research of how Tobago does its business. It's not like Trinidad. They use the same prescriptive way and the same implementation strategy of implementing IFMIS in Trinidad, and they came to Tobago with that strategy and it couldn't work because our banking, we bank with commercial banks. That's a simple thing. We pay all our employees via ACH. In Trinidad is via check. And the system was designed to cut checks and not necessarily ACH. Although they did say to tweak that is not an issue, but the software was designed with the structure of Trinidad in mind and not Tobago.
Right.
But I had a meeting with the service provider, the company, who actually is doing the implementation, and they did indicate that they can make the changes in light of how Tobago does its business.
Understood.
So those are some of the challenges that we face. This manual system, I wish tomorrow morning I could change it because it affects me as well. My reporting, I have persons who have to go out to divisions and pick up figures manually from the vote books. I wish I could have a dashboard where I could see as we spend real time. The only real-time platform we have is our online banking. I can go online now and we can see the monies that we have in the Tobago House of Assembly real time. But in terms of financial reporting, that's difficult because it's a manual system.
Right. And usually at the budget presentation stage, we often hear a clear designation between recurrent expenditure as well as the development fund. We didn't hear that this time around. Can you give us some insight on what is allocated for development and what is allocated for?
So it really wasn't disaggregated, and I'm not even sure why. I guess with a new government, they view things differently, they present things differently. But under recurrent, we have been allocated $2.74 billion. Last year, we were allocated 2.375. So it's about a close to $400 million increase. Under the development program, we were allocated $201.5 million. I'm not sure for URP and CPEP, because CPEP is a distribution from Trinidad and URP is, I have not seen the figures, but when I calculate the difference between the 5%, which in dollar value is 2.96, right? Minus that from the recurrent and DP, I'm getting about a 19 million, and I suspect that's for URP, 19 million for URP. But I haven't seen the figures just yet. From the budget book. So I went through in detail the recurrent and development program figures for the Tobago House of Assembly.
But this development budget doesn't differ much from the one that was given in
Correct.
the last
Actually, it was reduced. But usually we make the adjustments. The Tobago House of Assembly has the privilege to just shift and move monies within. Last year we were allocated 205. And in the year, we were able to move about $80 million to bring it up to about $290 million for development program.
Understood. So would you be going back to the House very soon to make another presentation on exactly how this allocation would be spent in the upcoming fiscal?
Most definitely. In November, we will be going back to the House with a recalibrated or revised budget for Tobago. So now we know what our allocations are. We're going to tell the people of Tobago exactly what will be in terms of the numbers, because the budget statement, the priorities have not changed. My priorities have not changed, it's just the numbers now, and to drill down into the actual projects that we will be doing. And as I did indicate on the press briefing after the budget, we have 6 priority areas: tourism, agriculture, food security, food sovereignty, human capital development, innovation, education. We want to do a lot of training, both for our internal customers, which are employees, and entrepreneurs as well, through the Tobago Development Fund. The 4th one is infrastructure. The 5th one is digital transformation. As a matter of fact, I told my administrator and my strategic team at the office that I want to see us leading that digitization of the Tobago House of Assembly. I actually told all heads, when you're preparing your work plans, you have to present to me how you're going to use digital technology to make the job easier, more efficient. We're going to be more productive, more effective in how we deliver public service. And the final one is the micro, small, and medium enterprises sector. We're going to be drawing our attention to that sector through the Tobago Development Fund as well. This is the sector that stimulates our economy. About 90% of the businesses in Tobago are in that category. So we really want to see them grow and prosper and become sustainable.
Excellent. Let's look a bit at the creative sector and taking that sector, you know, as one of the integral parts of Tobago's economic diversification strategy. Earlier this year, and even during the Carnival launch campaign, you indicated that there will be a $2 million allocation towards this sector to offer grants of up to 30,000 TT and loans of up to $250,000. Tell us, how does that work? Is that already in place? How can creatives tap into that? Because we hear persons asking, okay, we heard you announce it, but then there's no application form online, there's no articles to follow up on it. How do they tap into that resource?
All right, so when I made the announcement, it was ready to start it for the Carnival. But because of the activation of Carnival coming along so swiftly, service providers needed the funds almost immediately to start their activations. So we decided to push it back, and we wanted to wait on the allocations because, as you know, it was the end of the fiscal period, and because we were closing off, it was difficult to spend in that period because we had to go through BDU and just the entire process. And as you know, we are manual. So the difficulty in executing that project in a swift manner in time for the 30th of September would have posed some challenges because, as you know, we can't spend right now money from last fiscal. So we decided to defer it to the beginning of this fiscal year. So the answer to your question is yes, we still have that program for entrepreneurs. It's $30,000 grant. The loans that BDU is doing up to $250,000. We do have the policy. We are just going to start the execution now. You will hear from the secretary, both the Secretary of Tourism and I, later down on how you apply and the forms and stuff like that. Actually, it's the same BDU forms. We're just going to make some tweaks in terms of making it specific to the creative sector because BDU forms right now is for all sectors. Anybody can apply for a BDU grant right now. But we're just going to make some changes that would be more applicable to the creative sector.
Excellent. What are some of the areas in the overall budget that, you know, not only came to you as a surprise, but you're also welcoming as it pertains to how you want to develop Tobago's economy moving forward?
The other areas of the budget,
not specific to Tobago, just some of the general stuff, because he did indicate that although this is the 5% allocation for Tobago,
yes,
a number of ministries that usually happen.
The reduction is super. I use super. So that for me was, you know, I welcome that. I know they made the promise of the 10% increase to the public servants. So from 2014 to 2019, you will see the civil service increases, and then they would also want to consider the teaching service and the defense force, their 4%. So obviously that is a welcome. I mean, I know it wouldn't benefit, but for the people of Trinidad and Tobago, I think it is good. There were some other measures in terms of the NIF bond, because the government does have to raise revenues. And we did see that the revenues are below the expenditure. The deficit budget of about, the deficit is about $3 point something billion. But I mean, I don't consume alcohol and I don't smoke, but we do have some increase in the customs duties, I think by 100% on those items. But for the regular man, for the majority of the people, I didn't see any harsh or austere measures that will affect them in a negative manner. I was thinking about that landlord fee as well. You know, everybody's putting up a little downstairs or renting an apartment now. I think it's about time the government, you know, capitalizes on that and gets some revenues on that, because that is not usually people have that as their side hustle. but I know they would want the persons to come to the BIR and probably register and pay the one-time subscription. I think it's $2,500 or a percentage of your annual rental. So I welcome these measures. I think they're reasonable. I don't think they are hard pressed on the citizens of Trinidad and Tobago.
I think one of the greatest concerns with that in particular is whether or not landlords would pass that fee on to the rental fee that the tenant ends up paying in the end. And that's a question.
Usually that is how businesses operate. Once a businessman, even the banks, if the banks have an extra overhead, usually they pass it on to the consumer. I don't know how, as a government, you can prevent that or try to reduce that from passing on to the customer. But I look forward to see how. The thing is, these measures are policy measures, but we just don't know how they would be executed just yet. I just wait to see the execution of these fiscal policy measures.
Understood. Well, we're going to take a quick break right here, and we're going to continue with much more discussion right after this. See you soon.
The Tobago Blue Food Festival 2025 is on October 19th, 2025. Enjoy live entertainment, cultural performances, and the best local vibes with good people. Don't miss the festival where food meets culture. The Tobago Blue Food Festival 2025, Sunday, October 19th at Bloody Bay Recreational Grounds. Check out their website at www.tobagofestivalscommission.com or follow on social media at Tobago Festivals for more.
Tobago, are you ready to light up the night? Join us for the Lambo Credit Union's Moonlight Miles for Diabetes Glow Walk 2025.
On Saturday, November 15th at Cano Bay Nature Resort, we'll walk, glow, and raise awareness for a healthier tomorrow.
From 5:30 to 9:30 p.m. Bring your family and friends for plenty glow energy.
Registration is just $180 per person, or grab your crew of 5 for only $150 each.
Sign up online or at Lambo Credit Union branches before October 31st.
For more registration and payment details, visit lambocreditunion.com and search Moonlight Miles today.
Start to rise, the energy filled the 6,000 people strong, and the vibes is never wrong. We are beauty, we are power. We are people in the sun. We are beaches, we are rivers. We are melanated ones. We special and there is no denying. Tobago is number one. I am you and you are me. Together we're stronger. Good morning, Tobago. Good morning, Tobago.
Good morning and welcome back to Good Morning Tobago right here on Tobago Updates. Now I continue my discussions this morning with the Secretary for Finance, Trade and the Economy right here in Tobago, Councillor Petalyn Roberts. Good morning and welcome back. So we've been chatting a lot about that allocation for Tobago. I remember in previous conversations you indicated that one of the key issues that often happen is that bank overdraft that the Tobago House of Assembly has to deal with because of those late payments. Has that been a part of the conversation? What's the solution for that moving forward?
Most definitely. That has been a conversation with the former Minister of Finance, and it was top of the agenda. As a matter of fact, I could kind of go through some of the items that we discussed, and then I'll get into, you know, what was some of the recommendations, because the minister is new and he's now getting an understanding of what is happening with us. We brought some recommendations as to how to solve these issues. So we did bring to his attention, obviously, the request of 5.9% and what that would mean for us. The closing of the fiscal 2025, the overdraft facility and the implications of that, the negative fallout in terms of my liquidity in the bank accounts has been diminished because of the overdraft, and I'll get into that when I get into the overdraft conversation. The IFMIS project, that was one. We do have a bond. I brought it to his attention that we have a bond that the previous administration of the People's National Movement, they went out before the elections, took a bond of 165, issued a bond, of 165 million, and we have to pay back the investors this money in a bullet payment, not in part, but we have to find $165 million in full to repay these investors because they would have purchased bonds. We pay interest of $8 million a year to these investors. And that should be up in 2027, which is right around the corner. So I brought that to his attention. And then we wanted to do some borrowing. And he did indicate the debt to GDP ratio is extremely high. And it's very concerning for him. So he could not allow us to borrow. And one of the borrowing instruments I wanted was to assist with the liquidity. So I wanted to borrow millions of dollars to take care of the gap by which we receive our allocations, because I did indicate to you we don't get the allocations quarterly or block in advance. But if I can borrow that, get that upfront, and when the releases come, repay, it would help me to pay contractors easier, it would help us to plan and so forth. But it didn't indicate not at this point in time, because the government, the previous administration, had borrowed so much, it took up the debt to GDP ratio, and it's extremely high at this time. But let me get into the overdraft interest conversation. So I did write outlaying the overdraft interest over the last 10 years. And in 1 year in particular, the overdraft was the interest was $10 million. That means we utilized the overdraft so much, the interest alone was $10 million. And in subsequent years, it came down to $8 million in a 2-year period, and then $5 million, because once we receive the allocations earlier, we'll be able to reduce that. It is now about $2 million a year. Last year, we spent about $2.1 million in terms of the overdraft interest. But cumulatively, the bank has already taken that money, that's in their interest. So it reduces the amount of money I have available in the account. And therefore, that's an issue for me. So if the government sends me $250 million, I only have $200 to spend, because the overdraft interest would have cumulatively snowballed and reduced the amount of money I have. So one of the recommendations given by releases quarterly or block in advance. And secondly, the overdraft interest is a non-budget expenditure. So it's not catered for anywhere. So I asked him to give me back the funding because it's no fault of mine that I have to incur this expenditure. So I asked the minister if he could consider giving us back the monies, giving us the funding to reduce that, to reduce the overdraft interest and actually build up the fund account now so that I can have money in real times and real terms, right? He said he's going to consider giving us back the monies to put into our fund account. The how is what he was thinking of, because usually we receive monies via line items. But he said he's going to work it out in terms of how he's going to give us back this money, because you can't just give us money like it has to come through the appropriation.
Right, and now that the budget has been read, where do we go from here as a Tobago House of Assembly? What's the next step? And, you know, even as there's praising of that higher allocation, what does that mean in practical terms for the average Tobagonian?
Right, so I've already started to think of the management of these funds, because that is the real issue. You would hear people in the space saying it's not how much they receive, it's how they manage it. So that's my mandate, that's my focus. So the thought process for me right now is on the development side. That's where we have the major shortfall, and that's where we have the deficits and the deficiencies. If you look around Tobago versus Trinidad, you recognize that Tobago is way behind in terms of its development. There's so much to be done. The thing I want to tell Tobagonians, we cannot do everything in one fiscal year. We do have, as I said, a manual system. We do have a procurement process that we must follow, and the process can be lengthy and it cannot be overturned. As a politicians, we don't get into the system. We allow the public officers to do that. So we will give the mandate and the policy directive, and we expect that these things would be executed in a timely manner. Where do we go from here? I have started to look at the figures already, and the next step is for us to have a retreat at the executive level, the highest executive level, as well as the administrative level. So we do usually have a 2-day retreat, and we will continue that process, and I expect that retreat will happen within the next 2 weeks or so. The Chief Secretary has not yet confirmed the dates. I did propose some dates to him. I'm just waiting on the confirmation of those dates. But this is where we will prioritize, obviously, the projects. And this is where it starts for me in terms of the revised budget. My revised budget will be premised on the outcome of those discussions in terms of the retreat. So where we prioritize both development program and recurrent. On the recurrent side, I'm letting you know now, and letting Tobagonians know, and those public officers, that gratuity payments, increments, arrears to public officers, that will be a priority for us. I could not settle most of them at the end of fiscal 2025. So I said at the beginning of 2026, the first 2 quarters, we're going to look at prioritizing the payment of gratuities.
Right, and even as it pertains to that group, we know that teachers are heavily affected by that outstanding gratuity and increment payment.
Well, not only teachers, all public. So it's everybody. So
Yes.
there is not going to be a sector that will benefit. We're going to do first in, first out as well. Once your gratuity is ready to be paid, we will try and allocate the funding. So it means that the gratuity line item will be supplemented. Per event, it's not sufficient, right? Because some divisions have excess and some will have deficiencies in terms of how much the allocation is. So we're going to make good those divisions. I'll give you an example. Education, this one I heard you talk about teachers. Their gratuities are extremely high and outstanding. So I am committing to sending the resources, the financial resources, to take care of liquidating those gratuity payments. And across the assembly. So it's not only education, across the assembly, we're going to prioritize. So obviously we'll ask the divisions to submit your list, submit the quota of the outstanding gratuities, and we're going to take care of them as a matter of priority.
Well, I know persons are happy to hear that, because persons have been waiting for a long time. Even as we wrap up the discussion, when it comes to us making prudent financial decisions moving forward, you said that retreat is important for you, but you did indicate that there are some areas that you put in your budget earlier this year that you want to ensure going forward? Investment in SMEs, education. But this Scarborough Sec project has been outstanding for a long time.
Scarborough Sec. Well, I wouldn't want to speak to it because that would be the Secretary of Education. But yesterday she and I had a conversation. So I went through the budget, the draft estimates of expenditure. And I was highlighting areas where we saw significant increases, notable increases and decreases. Scarborough Sec was one. I saw an increase in the allocation for Scarborough Sec. School repairs program is another one where we saw significant increases. DATAS, where we give bursaries and financial support to tertiary level students. I saw no increases or decreases. It was the same allocation of $500,000. But what we will do, we will prioritize and then we will send supplemental allocations to those areas. So in areas where we saw significant allocation, we'll just shift it. So we do the adjustments on our side, and that is what the exercise is coming out of the retreat. That is where we prioritize. Actually, last year that's what we did. We had 44 projects, and as a matter of fact, those 44 will continue once they were not completed. Those 44 projects, and some of those 44 projects are part of the tourism, the agriculture, the human capital development, micro, small and medium enterprises. As a matter of fact, that was one of the priorities for me. One of my priorities under the Division of Finance was to invest in these businesses, and I did that. Fishermen, not fishermen, but fisher folk, because we have women as well. So fisher folk, they got support in terms of their boat repairs. We're going to do agriculture. We saw an increase in the amount of grant funding. But what they have been crying out for as well is technical support. They want the training. They want to know about the OPR. They want to know what taxes they should pay. They want to know how to register their businesses. So I will do a program specifically for businesses throughout next fiscal period. So targeting them, both financial resources and the technical assistance, those two will go hand in hand as a priority for the sector under the Tobago Development Fund. The Tobago Development Fund, they are also now looking for recruitment of management staff, and they have already submitted to me the policy in terms of what the fund will be offering. So we are reviewing that to bring that in this fiscal for execution.
Understood. And even as we round up the discussion this morning, is there anything that you want to say or remind Tobagonians before we go?
Yes, let me remind Tobagonians that, the management of the financial resources is critical for us. And that's why we have the priority exercise. I will continue consultations, budget consultations. I did start it prior to the June budget presentation. Those will continue within next week and so forth before the revised budget. We are managing prudently, transparent, and we are accountable to the people. I am. If you know me, if you were to ask me anything, I will tell the public as it is. If we have any difficulties and challenges, it's the same response. It will be the true and transparent and accountable to the people of Tobago. So we are on the trajectory of making Tobago the greatest little planet starting in 2025. It's a plan from 2025 to 2045. We are going to start the policies, the initiatives to getting Tobago to become the greatest little island on the planet.
Excellent. Well, guys, we're going to take a quick break right here, and we'll be back right after this. See you soon.
It's a brand new morning, rise up to a brand new dawning.
The Tobago Blue Food Festival 2025 is on October 19th, 2025. Enjoy live entertainment, cultural performances, and the best local vibes with good people. Don't miss the festival where food meets culture. The Tobago Blue Food Festival 2025, Sunday, October 19th at Bloody Bay Recreational Grounds. Check out their website at www.tobagofestivalscommission.com or follow on social media at Tobago Festivals for more.
Nothing sweeter than to be born young. forever strong, and the vibes is never wrong. We are beauty, we are power. We are people in the sun. We are beaches, we are rivers. We are melanated ones. We special and there is no denying. Tobago is number one.
Good morning and welcome back to Good Morning Tobago right here on Tobago Updates, guys. Before we round up our discussions and talks this morning on Tobago Updates, I want to remind you that today is the overall exhibition of the World Food Day that's happening at the Shore Park Food Hub. So just in case you forgot, today and tomorrow, there's that big exhibition happening at the Shore Park Food Hub here in Tobago. It's excitement, it's a lot of traffic, so get there early, get your parking arranged, and be there and enjoy all that Tobago's agriculture sector has to offer. Now we're gonna go straight into a pre-recorded interview that happened that is focused on baby loss that took place recently. In that interview, I'm chatting with Mrs. Makeda Gray, and we're talking about all that her organization, the Zafiri Foundation, has been doing as it pertains to raising awareness for baby loss. Good morning and welcome back to Good Morning Tobago right here on Tobago Updates. Now, today is the celebration of Baby Loss Day, International Baby Loss Day, that is. And to have that conversation with me this morning, I have the privilege of sitting and chatting right here at the Magdalena Grand Beach Resort with Mrs. Makeda Gray, who is the founder of Zafiri Foundation Initiative. Good morning and welcome.
Good morning and welcome to Tobago. Thank you for taking the initiative to have us on today, another year with you all.
Excellent. And, you know, you have been celebrating this for a good while, right? And, you know, you've made it your duty to reach out and to support other women using this foundation. Tell us a bit about your journey and why it's important to continue to raise awareness here in Tobago.
The Zafiri Foundation was birthed in 2018. However, I experienced my loss in 2015. After my loss in 2015, it was very difficult to navigate through work-life balance and also daily interactions with other persons. And it was a conversation that was seldom talked about. And what happened to me is in 2018, I was a student at Atalochak and I wanted to do something in honor of my experience. So I did a tea party. And from that tea party, we had clinical specialists along with persons who would have championed the cause to support persons who would have been directly or indirectly affected by baby loss. And from that simple tea party, some of the patrons wanted for us to continue some type of awareness or some type of support group for women that would have been directly affected, because at that point in time, that would have been in 2018, there weren't any organizations per se in Trinidad and Tobago that actually dealt directly with persons who would have been affected by baby loss. So from that experience of hosting that tea party, the Zafiri Foundation Initiative was born.
Excellent. And, you know, persons may have quite a limited view on what baby loss entails, but it's not just about having a miscarriage or a stillbirth. There are other areas that constitute baby loss. Tell us about that.
Baby loss is a journey and an experience that most people seldom speak about because it's a very traumatic experience. When it is someone knows that they're pregnant, it gives a sense of joy, and not just joy directly to them, but also joy for their family, especially the expansion of one family. So when it is you hear someone experience that sort of joy, it's not really welcoming to speak about the sadness that comes with knowing that you did not carry the baby full term, or you did not have that joy of leaving the hospital with the baby. So something called postpartum depression is very real, and it's not just with persons who would have been directly affected with pregnancy loss. Persons who actually have a successful pregnancy, meaning that they went to the hospital, they delivered the baby, and they come home, they also experience postpartum depression. So just imagine someone who did not have that joy of leaving the hospital with your baby, and you have to experience postpartum depression. Also, what tends to happen is that grief kicks in at baby loss. And when grief kicks in at baby loss, you have different stages of grief. Sometimes you have the acceptance, meaning that you accept the fact that you no longer have that baby with you, but then you have the what if and the milestones that you'll never get to experience. And then you have the denial stage, then you have the blaming stage, then you have the stage that you are battling between whether or not you should try again because of the trauma of what happened before. So based on all those experiences, it's not a topic that persons really want to speak about, but it needs to be spoken about.
Right, and does losing a baby after a month or a couple of weeks after leaving the hospital also constitute baby loss?
Baby loss also have different areas of baby loss. So you have baby loss from the medical perspective, because some pregnancies aren't carry full term because of medical reasons. So you have that baby loss at that stage. Then you have baby loss at the stage of a miscarriage, where the baby dies between the first week to the 26th week of pregnancy. Then you have a stillbirth, which is what I had, which is the baby would have gone to full term and the baby died at birth or died during the vaginal birth. Or you have a SIDS, which is sudden infancy death, where your baby is between 6 months to a year and the baby die. So you have those different areas that constitutes the baby loss. However, we also welcome persons who lost children at the age anytime over a year, because it's still something that is very traumatic and is within the same baby loss spectrum that persons experience the loss. And we don't want to categorize it into just baby loss as baby loss from pregnancy to a year, but we welcome persons who would have experienced a lot at any stage for their children.
Right, and talk to us a bit about the activities that you'll be hosting this time around and how persons can get involved today.
The Free Foundation initiative, as I indicated, was birthed in 2018, and thus far we have several initiatives that would have championed the cause for the past 6 years. This year is Baby Loss Awareness 23rd year. The Free Foundation would have connected with several international bodies to basically pattern some of their initiatives. So 2 of the initiatives that we are hosting this year is our biannual awareness walk. That walk was held on Saturday at the Canopy, and we got a good turnout this year. A lot of moms came out and support us to honor their babies. And then we are hosting our International Wave of Light, which is carried on the 15th of October. And this is the initiative that has been happening for the past 23 years internationally. And we will be joining we will be joining our international bereaving parents to celebrate Baby Loss Awareness Day with our Wave of Light, which is carried to be held at the Amphitheater at Scarborough, Tobago.
Excellent. And so why is it important for persons who have been affected or have a family member that has been affected, or, to come out and support? Because to be very honest, a lot of the times when persons go through this level of trauma, to cope with this situation, you would know they just try to forget.
Yes.
They just want to forget. They want to act like it never happened and bury that part of their experience in some deep, dark place in their mind where they never want to go back to. How does it help to come out and engage with women who, have been through this? Is it something that is a trigger, a negative trigger for some women, or is it a place where you can be embraced and you can just exhale and be around persons who assure you that you are not alone?
You said it perfectly in the end. Assures you that you are not alone. Baby Loss Awareness Month and Baby Loss Awareness itself is a very triggering experience. And what we have observed is that your pain could be something purposeful to help someone navigate through their darkness. Now, baby loss for me was a very dark place for the first 3 years, because I had my loss in 2015, but I wasn't at the stage where I could have shared my experience until about 3 years after, which is when I held the tea party. And what it is we would have realized over the past 6 years is that when it is you feel that you're in a space that is like mine, you can be open. And once it is you are open to welcome that openness, you can share your experience. And by sharing your experience, you get to realize that it's not as dark as you experience it to be. It could be something that sheds a light on a situation that society seldom speaks about.
Right.
So one thing is we also realize too is that a lot of persons don't want to talk about baby loss. Baby loss is something that no one wants to speak about. But if it is I come and say, okay, I experienced baby loss, you say, no, I had somebody or I experienced that. And that starts a conversation. And what the conversation starts and what the conversation helps to do is to explore the challenges that women in society face. So we know that experiencing baby loss could be sometimes medically associated. So persons who would have connected with it over the years would have explained that I experienced postpartum depression, I experienced preeclampsia during pregnancy, I experienced diabetes during pregnancy. And once it is you have this conversation, then we can go to the bodies that be to assist in providing proper health care for women, proper screening for women post-pregnancy and after pregnancy, especially the ones who experience miscarriage. Now, I was very blessed in the sense that when I experienced my loss, I had my successful rainbow baby in 2018, but based on my pre-health conditions, the doctors were better able to assist and treat me. So if it is you don't speak about your loss and you don't speak about the challenges and the experiences you have, how do you expect the bodies that be, especially in the healthcare facility, to assist us women to be able to have more successful pregnancies?
Excellent. Well, even as we wrap up our discussion this morning, I want you to, encourage women to come out and be a part and really go beyond that hard external shell of not wanting to speak anymore and really engaging with the work that you're doing and encouraging others to support that work as we close this morning.
So it's really nice to be here this morning because the theme for baby loss awareness this year is Together We Care. So we really want to champion the cause of Together We Care by persons actually breaking their silence and coming out to support. Because if it is we don't break our silence and come out and support each other, we would always be in a place of darkness. And there's so much light in sharing your experience that we want you to open up. We want you to think about not just yourself, but think about others and think about the way how you could connect with others and share your experience. And we could only do that if it is we come together as a body, as a force, that persons know that we want to be able to say in 2020, in 2030, that based on our impact and our speaking about the challenge that we experience, we could have a reduced baby loss fertility rate.
Excellent. We want to thank you so much for being here this morning and all the work that you are doing. And we're encouraging persons to reach out to you and be a part of all that you're doing. So how can persons contact you?
Zafiri Foundation, we have a Facebook page and we also have a WhatsApp group. We meet monthly, the first Wednesday in every month. We have our support group meetings via Google Meet. And then for the month of October, annually, we have several activities. But throughout the year, you can get in contact with us at our Facebook page, also at our email, which is zafiri.18@gmail.com. And you could also get in contact with us via our mobile number, which is 778-7199, to join our WhatsApp group where we post different activities and initiatives that we are hosting throughout the year.
Excellent. We want to thank you so much for being here, guys. We're going to take a quick break right here and we'll be back after this. See you soon.